Director Heldman.
Here.
Director Origi.
Here.
Director Hawkins.
Here.
Director Oscui.
Here.
Director Vasquez.
Present.
Director Camacho Rodriguez.
Here.
President Apodaca.
Here. Director Riggi would lead us Pledge of Allegiance.
Invocation.
Oh, invocation.
Director Hellman. Please prepare yourself in the manner you're accustomed to. Heavenly Father, we ask that you look with favor upon the gathering of your servants this day. We ask that you give us wisdom, guidance to move forward and make the right decisions for the community of Central Basin Municipal Water District. We ask that you look with those less fortunate than us with favor, give them hope and prosperity, and we ask that especially that you look after your children that are serving in armed forces throughout the world, protecting our freedoms as we stay here in the United States and they are away from their families. We ask all these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Director Hillman will lead us.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments and presentations.
Yeah, I'd like to start first the presentation for Grace Robinson Hyde, who is the Chief Engineer and General Manager of the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. Grace. This is a labor of love. As a professional of environment for many years, she's been one of the leaders of the industry, and I'll read the resolution. A proclamation of the Board of Directors of Central Basin Municipal Water District presented to Grace Robinson Hyde, P.E. Recognition of her leadership and dedicated service to the water street upon the occasion of her retirement. Whereas Grace Robinson Hyde has been employed with the Los Angeles County Sanitation District for more than 30 years, dedicated to managing wastewater and provide the highest level of water quality and reliability to nearly 5.5 million people across 78 cities and unincorporated areas throughout the Los Angeles metropolitan area. And whereas she was responsible for managing all the operations of the sanitation districts, one of the largest recycling programs in the nation, overseeing approximately 1,700 employees, an annual budget of over $700 million. Protecting public health and environment through innovative and cost-effective wastewater and solid waste management, and doing so, converting waste into resources such as recycled water, energy, and recycled materials. Whereas she explored purification projects to reuse water which was discharged to the Pacific Ocean and part of the Metropolitan Water District to create one of the largest recycling plants in the world, the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant located in Carson. Whereas she has served on the California Social and Sanitation CASA Program Planning Committee as Chair and Vice Chair. Whereas she has served on the Commerce Refuse to Energy Authority Board, Inland Empire Regional Composting Authority Board, Plenty Hills Habitat Preservation Authority Board, Santa Monica Bay Restoration. And whereas she was the first female Chief Engineer and General Manager of the Sanitation District of Los Angeles County, now therefore be it proclaimed on this, the 22nd day of July 2019, that the Board of Directors of the Central Basin Municipal Water District hereby recognizes Grace Robinson Hyde for years of commitment and exemplary service to the communities throughout Los Angeles County. Another one, because for us, it's really important is the purple pipe. So we have a special pipe here that says without the leadership Grace Robinson Hyde, Chief Engineer and General Manager, and it has a piece of purple pipe.
Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you very much for the job well done. I can say that there's a saying I've mentioned in business that culture trumps strategy all the time. Well, she not only had great strategy, but the culture that she developed at the Inland County Sanitation District is one cooperation, legality, you can do the attitude, and just wonderful people to work with. Never had a problem in my career with this, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Grace, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. I just want to say that I have valued our partnership. The respective agencies have been partners on recycled water projects for over 25 years. And we really value our recycled water partners because it's part of what we do. And so this means a lot, and thank you very much.
we also have today, it just so happens that because of it being July, we have a lot of people who started in July, so I'm going to call all of them to come up at once instead of individually, and then we'll go over their years. So Lucia Sid Sanchez, you can come up. Donald Jones, you can come up. Kelsey Coleman. Ruben Baez. Albert Plimpton. And Sandy Linares Plimpton. Now, what do these people have in common, other than they all work for the Green Basin? They all started in July, at different times. So Lucia just completed 2 years with us. Donald Jones, 4 years with us. Kelsey Coleman, 4 years with us. Ruben Baez, 7 years. Albert Clinton, 13 years with us. Peggy Williams, 13 years with us. And last but not least, with an astounding 19 years, Sandy Linares. These are July babies. We have two more things. If we could have first Kevin Wadier and Joseph Legaspi up for a minute. Don't be shy. I never know you to be shy, Kevin. Get up there. You want to go? Right up there, sir. So I can come behind you. So these are standing ovation awards. These two gentlemen, we were in danger of losing one of our Met representatives, as you know, because of our situation as a fairly disadvantaged community and our low assessed valuation per capita. 3 years ago, we got zero support. Thanks to the hard work of Joseph with the legislature and Kevin with the Metropolitan, we not only got it passed, we got it passed with unanimous support in a 3-year period. And that was really an outstanding performance. And, I really appreciate the hard work and effort that went into it. So congratulations. Thank you. Drink to help them, they're clapping extra loud. One of them would be here next month if it wasn't for this. Thank you. Okay. The next one, Donald Jones. I guess Joe isn't here today?
No, not
Okay. Well, one of Donald's job is hooking up recycled water, and he's very good at it, but one of the ones that taxed our creativity and ingenuity was hooking up the Montebello Golf Course. Because of the location where it was, the situation with 2 hotels and a dining area in the middle, and the actual testing itself had to be done from 4 o'clock in the morning, as I recall. And of course, it had to pour rain that day. They had to be out there in it. Then when they got done with that, there were all the connections that we've gone through over the last several months to finally get that hooked up. But it was a difficult project, but it's a 240 acre feet a year of recycled water. It's an excellent project, and extraordinary hard work on your part. And I know that Joe Walters is, but we want to give one to him too. So, Donald, standing ovation. And we have 4 speakers cards. I want to sit there. Juan Lopez is a citizen, Juan Torres. There are 3 people who want to speak on item 21. Do you wish me to wait till then? We get to that? We're doing that. Okay. We'll do it when we get to item 21. We'll have 3 speakers at that time. And then 2 gentlemen, Urbano Torres. Mr. Torres?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What did I stand?
I'm sorry, right up to the podium, yes, sir.
Good morning, Board of Directors. I'm here to speak against the approval of item 21 on your agenda. It doesn't make sense why Kevin Hans bring for contracts like the Montebello Hills project that brings 0 benefits to the Central Basin, including the recommendation to transfer almost $1 million from taxpayers' money to a developer who, by law, can move forward with this project. One must ask why. It is because Kevin Hans operates his personal consultant business without disclosing to the board who his clients are while serving as your general manager. Mr. Hans, please disclose to the public in your company Hans Thornton Resources Strategies will be the construction company that gets the contracts to build the project's line for the Montebello Hills developer. Please disclose your personal interest in these projects. And also please disclose your personal interest and involved in the water replacement district of Southern California grid project. Please disclose any other involved you or your company are in. Thank you.
And just for the record, I haven't done any of that whatsoever. No involvement whatsoever.
Well, so now involved, that'll be fine on my any other disclose?
I've not done any consulting work in 2 years. So,
Well, thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Juan
Hunt,
Lopez?
is your consulting, well, you're required to
That's
provide a report to the board quarterly.
If I do
I don't think that
quarterly, if I do any work, I've not done any work for over 2 years.
It says you're required to provide a report, so irrespective, it doesn't say if, it says you're required to provide a report. So, I mean, I would like, to have you do that at some point.
Do what?
Provide a report.
There's
But we
nothing
can
to
get that,
report for
yeah, we
2
can get
years?
to that, yes, for 2 years.
Mr. Chair.
Well, actually, for 4 years.
This is the public comment section. There's no going back and forth.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Juan Lopez?
Hello, I'd like to say good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As you guys already introduced me, my name is Juan Lopez. I'm a resident of the City of Commerce. I've lived there for 19 years. I was born in Bellflower, and after a year of being there, my family moved to the City of Commerce. And of course, Commerce falls under the Central Basin Service Area. I'm greatly concerned that your general manager, Mr. Kevin Hunt, is engaged in conflicts of interest by working as a consultant for his company Hunt Thornton Resource Strategies. Hunt works as a consultant to serve as business interests who are contracting directly and indirectly with the Central Basin. Let me remind you that Mr. Kevin Hunt was also involved in a conspiracy and a scheme which was to defraud the city of Southgate from 2001 to 2003. His company, Stonehurst, was forced to pay back $875,000 in a settlement agreement after Mr. Hunt was threatened by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Instead of being charged for his criminal activity, Mr. Hunt turned state evidence over and testified against former Southgate Mayor Albert Robles, who was eventually convicted of his felony crimes and served 10 years in prison. Hunt continues his heinous crimes of stealing from taxpayers here at the Central Basin. And I'm here as a future taxpayer. I just started my working, and now that I just figured out that this is where my tax dollars are going to, and I just wanted to be on the record. And I thank everyone for their time here, and have a good morning.
Mr. Lopez, congratulations on becoming a taxpayer. You're young, 19 years of age. Some of the incidents that you mentioned probably happened before you were born.
Mr. Osgood,
No, I
didn't you
was-
just mention that this is not an opportunity to engage conversations in the
It was
public?
not an opportunity
Maybe
I'm
we should defer this for another time.
No, I don't
Okay,
think so. There's a
so
chair.
then you should allow me to speak when I have comments as well.
The director has a chair.
Okay. So then I'll speak after him. Thank you.
You sure
When
can.
I let you speak.
Could you indulge and let me know, please, how did you get this information? How did your research go? How did you find this information?
Well, it's out there.
No, I know it's out there. How did you become involved and so interested and find out about this?
Mr. Osgood, all of this is on the internet, and this is very inappropriate for you to question a resident. Okay, very inappropriate for you. You're out of order, sir. You're out of order, sir. Do not harass the residents.
We're not harassing him.
You are harassing.
Let him speak. You'll get to speak later.
You're out of order.
This is a democracy, sir, and this is an opportunity for the public to make comments.
You got a chair that rules meeting.
This is not funny, sir. This is a very serious issue that we're dealing with.
You have a chair.
And
you're out of
Mr.
order.
Hunt did turn state's evidence, and all of that information is in the court record, sir, and it's online.
Mr. Hunt didn't own Somos.
The comments at this time are supposed to be related to the operation of Central Basin. Not supposed to be a review of historical events that were not part of Central Basin.
These are some very legitimate concerns that the members of the public who are our ratepayers are bringing forth, and I believe they have an opportunity and a right to do that. Thank you.
That's okay. Let's just move on.
Item 4, MWD activities.
All right, good morning, directors. Have a few updates for you on business at the Metropolitan Water District. First off, the board had selected a new ethics officer named Abel Salinas, and his experience includes leading investigations within the U.S. Department of Labor for more than 20 years. Mr. Salinas succeeds the General Auditor Jerry Riss, who filled that role since September 2017 upon the resignation of Dina Galley. In this role, he will work to support the ethical culture among the directors and managers and the staff. And this position is responsible for making recommendations regarding rules, policies related to lobbying, conflicts of interest, contract, campaign contributions, and internal disclosures while providing education and advising everyone about the rules. Next is a topic of emerging water quality issues. So during the Engineering and Operations Committee last month, the information was provided to the board regarding emergency regulation pertaining to per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, otherwise known as PFAS. So Metropolitan gave a report, and then a little bit of background about this emerging water quality issue. They've also showed the board that they collected samples of their source and treated water over the past few years, and there has been no detection of this water quality issue. Over 30 federal-related bills and 2 state bills have been introduced this fiscal year to address this issue. It is anticipated that the State Water Resources Control Board will release update to the notification and response levels soon. And this information was brought to the board in an effort to keep everyone apprised as to what several retail agencies are being faced with right now. We will discuss this in further detail at our August Water Resources Committee. And also, Metropolitan will be hosting a water quality meeting this coming Thursday, July 25th, from 9 to 12 o'clock. This item will be included as a topic of discussion among many other items. And we have distributed this information to all of our purveyors so that they are aware as well, and they are invited to join. Another area that happened at Metropolitan during the board meeting is that Regarding the Lake Matthews Reserve, their board had authorized naming the Lake Matthews Multiple Species Reserve in honor of former Metropolitan Board Chairwoman Lois Krieger. And she had served 25 years on the Metropolitan Board as a representative of the Western Municipal Water District. And then lastly, regarding the Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance, at the Conservation and Local Resources Committee, an update was provided on a partnership between Metropolitan and the California Landscape Contractors Association to further educate and provide training on the statewide Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance, in which the cities are responsible for implementation. So several workshops are being held throughout Metropolitan Service area, and in our area, there is one scheduled in Downey, located at the Southern California Gas Energy Resource Center on August 21st. We've also provided this information to our retail agencies as well, and encourage them to participate. And that's all I have for updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, anyone?
No? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just the only thing I'd like to add is on July 12th, I had the honor of introducing Senator Bob Archuleta at an event as well, and in attendance was Joseph, so thank you. I think the event went well. And he's also having an open house on the 24th in Norwalk from 5:30 to 8, so we'd encourage attendance in that event. So thank you.
Consent calendar 5 through 12. Does anyone have any issues to pull any of those?
Yes, I'd like to pull a couple of items, Mr. Chair. I'd like to pull item 6A, item 7, item 8, item 10, item 11, item 12,
Move the balance of the calendar.
Second. Roll call.
Director Chacon?
I'd like to abstain on the Nossaman bills.
Noted.
I think $39,000 is way too much we should be paying. I know they were supposed to be in the cap of 25. I don't know why we're trying to pay 39.
And the rest is okay? It's just abstention on Muslim bill? Okay. Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Arrighi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Okay, so the warrant run, I want to pull item 22-370, which is the Nossaman bill. Legal services for the month of April, which is $39,646. Now, just for clarification, is that the item that is listed on our agenda as item number 20? It's a different amount, but I just need confirmation.
That's a prior month.
Okay.
It's already been approved.
Okay. How many months has it been that have we ever had a bill that is within the $25,000 limit that this board approved?
If you look down a little further, check 22397, that one was less than $25,000.
Oh, the $24,900, okay. But throughout the period of the contract that Nossaman has had, where the board has indicated that there's going to be a $25,000 monthly limit, can you tell me which months, which are the months where he has stayed between that limit? Obviously, May of 2019 is one.
I don't have that vendor history with me, but
Okay.
we can definitely provide that. And in addition, if the amount does go over $25,000, it does go to the agenda, similar to, like you mentioned earlier, agenda item 20.
Right. Is there anything that we're doing to contain the costs and follow the direction of the board, which is to to only use $25,000. I mean, our staff members have taken a cut. Everyone here, for the most part, has taken a cut. The only, actually two, individuals that haven't taken a cut in either salary or budgets have been the general manager and the attorneys.
If I
So
may,
we're
Mr. President.
concerned about that.
I don't believe the contract itself has a $25,000 a month. That amount was developed through a discussion here historically at the board meeting, where Mr. Hunt indicated that since the administrative code gives him authority to spend $25,000, he would bring to the board each month any invoice that exceeded that amount. We have tried to be very cost-effective and efficient. Sometimes, however, there are issues that come up, not necessarily from the public, but by the demands of time from directors that require additional time to be spent.
Okay, yeah, I was just reviewing some of the bills, and I just see some work like, you bill us for driving here and to driving, and for driving to
I
meetings.
believe that's a common practice among lawyers.
Okay. So maybe it can be a conference call, Kevin? I mean, I certainly see areas of improvement, and this board has spoken, and we have given direction that there's going to be a $25,000 monthly limit, and I'm hoping that we can work on containing those costs.
Director, this actually, the 25,000 is what we budget and try and stay within, but we have litigation which we don't control, so we separate it. But I'd be glad to go through that with you offline in as much detail as you like.
Well, I'm reviewing the bills because I do review the bills that I'm permitted to review. And I see a number of items here that are really unnecessary. So I hope that you will do a better job in working to stay within the $25,000. We have a very tight budget. We made lots of cuts to employees. We're going to make further cuts. And I believe we need to be more efficient in how our legal services are being used. So I ask that you do that. We also have invoice 22-384 to Hanson Bridget LLP for legal services. Would you tell me a little bit more about that?
That was the attorney that was chosen, let me say it this way, the board requested a second opinion on the water rate study. And so Nossman provided the initial opinion, and then staff selected a qualified attorney per the board's direction to get a second opinion on the water rate study.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the direction of the board. I believe in that conversation, that was the direction of the general manager. But thank you. And then, let me see. Valley Soil Inc. Conservation Grant Program. Probably Sandy can tell me a little bit more about that. What the services are that they're providing. Valley Soil Inc. Conservation Grant Program, Prop 84 SEWEP program.
Yes, that's the vendor that's facilitating the grant with me.
Oh, okay. The grant for the project?
Grant is the audit and retrofits that we're doing throughout the service area.
Okay, thank you. And then item 22408, which is the Urban Water Institute annual membership renewal. Now, this is the organization that you founded, Kevin, correct?
26 years ago.
Yeah. Are there any other organizations that we're going to be paying dues for, or is this the only one?
Aqua, Association of California Water Agency.
Okay. Again,
California Water Resources, Water Reuse Association.
Have they already been paid?
So, have the ones already been paid for Aqua or Water Resource?
I'm just asking if, obviously, the Urban Water Institute.
Yeah, we received that invoice at the turn of the fiscal year. Their membership is about $1,200, if I remember right. It's very affordable compared to other agencies in terms of membership. Gives us a lot of information to follow on water policy programs and things of that nature. Water reuse membership, I don't believe, that would fall under the engineering and operations department. I don't know that we've paid that yet, but that's pretty substantial. I believe upwards of $25,000, if I remember.
It's about 10,000.
$10,000.
Yeah, I mean, I would like the board to see a list of all of the organizations that we are considering renewing membership for. I believe that because we do have such financial constraints, we need to be very strategic about how we spend our money. I find it very curious that, this organization that Mr. Hunt is a founder of gets, the benefit of receiving funds from Central Basin, yet organizations that we should be active with, like the California Contract Cities Association, like Independent Cities Association, and various others, including membership to our local chambers of commerce, which has disappeared over the past couple years, and those are organizations within our service area that have and bring a direct benefit to Central Basin, is not getting paid. And I'm not sure who would you mind telling me, Mr. Kevin Hunt, who is responsible for paying these memberships, and who is deciding on which organizations we're going to be members of? Because it's not coming to the board.
Actually, it did a couple of years ago. We went through the chambers and what we're going to do with the chambers and all of the other associations.
A couple of years ago, but that should be...
It's in our budget every year, which of the associations we're members of, et cetera.
I didn't see that in our budget. I went through the budget very closely, and as you're aware, I have been asking about this because I've been paying to update my Central Basin membership to the Chambers of Commerce in my district area out of my pocket. I have been financing my own conference, attending for conferences on my own because the board has cut back on those things. And so I just, again, find it curious that there are certain things that the agency pays for, which all happen to be organizations that Mr. Hunt happens to have some connection with, but not organizations that actually bring a direct benefit to this agency. So I am interested in bringing that back, the full membership to the organizations, as a discussion item at a future meeting so that the board can decide what agencies we're going to be members of. Thank you.
Mr. President, is that a motion? Was that a motion?
So other than that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the remainder of, or to approve the warrant run.
Second. Roll call.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Riki?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez? Yes. President Apodaca?
Yes. Item 13, confirmation of the ad hoc members for the...
Excuse me, did we approve the rest of the, Director Vasquez had pulled item 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah, so the next item is item number 7. Just wanted to get a report from you for the information regarding our fiscal status.
Sure.
And performance.
So usually I start with table 1, so you can see the numbers. As you can see in the second column of numbers, the fiscal 19 year-to-date actual, if you go 3 lines up from the bottom, the net operating margin is $1.1 million. That's substantially less than what was budgeted. If you go left 1 column, that's about $2.2 million. And you can see some of those items are lower revenues that the district has incurred or recognized to date. That's in the net revenue section. If you look at the expense, overall the net expense is approximately 93% of budget. If you go to table 2, you can see some of the departmental expenses, and there's pretty much 2 departments that are over the 100%. Again, this is a report that's through May, so that's 11 months out of the 12. And that represents about a 92% of the straight line fiscal year, if you will. The first is the administration and board services. That's wholly related to the higher election expense than what was budgeted. We've had discussions at the committee, and I believe maybe at the board too, about the reasons for that. In addition, it also has been noted previously at the board and committees that the legal expense is over, as noted in the report. And that concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you. It looks like all of the departments have stayed within their budgets, with the exception of the legal. Okay. When will the meter charge be implemented? I know it was approved by my colleagues during the last meeting.
We actually have
And when will that be reflected in our budget?
We actually have a cleanup item on that later in the agenda. That is agenda 14.2. So I can make some of the comments then, or
Sure.
like I could.
Sure. Okay, that's fine.
Victor, do you have a comment on it?
Yes, actually, I do have a comment on 8.
You're doing a motion, Director, for item number 7?
Oh, sure. Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Origi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Escudi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez? President Apodaca?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question regarding, on page 51 of agenda item number 8, and this might be a legal question. There's the term cooperative acquisitions. What exactly does that mean in the context of contracting? It says here, these are a list of basically contracts that are approved either by the board or the general manager. C, it says contracts engaged without competitive bid solicitation and include sole source and cooperative acquisition. What is the cooperative acquisition? I guess Sharon Kumar was the one that wrote this.
Yeah, it's pretty much directed when you don't have a choice and you have to go so there's another term for that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. It's like sole source.
Right, so any of the contracts that are listed in Exhibit C, are they all cooperative acquisition contracts, or?
Pretty much, yes. When we did this,
Sharon, some are sole source that were actually picked as a vendor of choice because of the amount of that.
and some of the sole source, we brought it back to the board, like Amtech Elevator. Though it's a sole source, but we brought it to the board because of the dollar amount.
Okay. Which one was that? Oh, Amtech.
Amtech,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, okay. So I do want to go through Exhibit A, and I know that there hasn't been any disclosure, and there was a concern by several members of the public. I know that we have a couple of members that have also expressed their concern to me about this. So I wanted to go through each of these exhibits and just ask Mr. Hunt whether Mr. Hunt, do you or your consulting service, Hunt Thornton Resources Strategies, have any direct or indirect business dealings with any of the contractors that are listed in Exhibits A, B, C, D, or E?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and move to approve the item.
I'll second that.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Urigi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Actually, it's item number 10. It says here under the California Resilience Challenge, Metropolitan authorized membership with the California Resilience Challenge. And I read a little bit about the initiative, and they're going to be contributing about $200,000 for use to fund grants to community-level climate change adaptation projects. And I'm interested in Central Basin identifying a nonprofit in our service area that will be able to apply for that grant opportunity. I think we have a number of organizations throughout our region, environmental organizations that could certainly benefit, from being a partner in this.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. And then the next one is item number 12.
Director, you need to do a motion.
Oh, yes. I'll go ahead and move that item for approval.
I'll second that.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Urigi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy, for this really wonderful and detailed report. I know that I've been talking a lot about how we should do more, talking about and sharing information about all of the wonderful benefits that the purveyors receive from being a part of the Central Basin Municipal Water District service area. So I just wanted you to go through some of the items that you have here on this agenda.
Sure. For number 11, this is the rebate program that is managed through Metropolitan SoCal Water Smart program. Is that the correct one? Okay, great. Excuse me. So this is the activity that we have throughout the fiscal year. We are approaching the end of the fiscal year. There's been over $100,000 so far that have been paid out to both residential customers on the rebate program. You'll see on the graph below the popular items, which are the clothes washers, the nozzles, the weather-based irrigation controllers. There were just a few rain barrels and about 44 toilets. And we are getting some traction on the turf rebate program. There were 2 that were paid out. One was in Suburban Water System Service Area, the other Golden State and Cal Water.
Now, with respect to that program, Sandy,
yes.
Throughout the service area, I know that when I first came on this board, I identified several residents in each of the cities that I represent, and I asked them to participate in the Turf It Out program, and we use them as a model to encourage other residents in their cities to participate. Yes. And I recall that the residents were given a direct rebate by, I think it was Water Smart?
It was through the SoCal Water Smart program, yes.
So is that how it works with the private water companies as well, for all of our purveyors?
Yes. Okay. So the way how an application is processed on the website is it is required to provide who their water retailer is, along with their account information. And so when that application is processed on the website, the way how I receive the database does detail within our service area where that activity occurred.
Okay. So that's the case for all of the rebate programs, from the Turf It Out to the nozzles to
Yes.
the washing machines and, okay.
Yes, and then Director, at your request from a previous board meeting that we had, you had requested for us to provide, starting from that month, the detail Excel sheet. And so you'll see that on page 80 of the board packet. And so you'll see it's organized by the retail agency in alphabetical order. If there is supplemental funding, which currently we have an agreement with Liberty, that supplemental funding additional amount that that resident would receive would be detailed there as well.
Now, does that additional funding that you mentioned come out of our general fund?
No, that supplemental funding is based on the agreements that the board approves every fiscal year. I will have one later on today for Liberty. We are negotiating right now with the city of Southgate. They will too be providing supplemental funding. So what occurs is whenever one of their customers goes online, fills out an application, if they decide they would like to have $20 added on to the toilet, Metropolitan will give that $20 to that resident and then bill Central Basin through the monthly water bill. We will then use that information to then bill the retail agency. So it's additional funding that those two agencies potentially would be billed by Central Basin.
Okay, and then on page 81, it says Cal Water Central Basin, Simi Valley, I guess it's a residential turf removal?
No, what happens is, and this is just more of how their system is set up, it's Cal Water within our service area. I did confirm that it did occur in our service area, but what happens is Cal Water has a large range even outside of our service area of customers, and so sometimes it'll say Los Angeles, Simi Valley, but I did confirm that that occurred in our service area. And Cal Water's, they just logged the wrong Cal Water identification on their system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so we get the addresses of the individuals that are participating?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a lot of, cities, Pico Rivera, Cudahy, Downey has been very active in participating in our rebate programs, Hawaiian Gardens, Signal Hill, Bell Gardens. So this is really great to see Compton, Huntington Park, to see all of these cities benefit from this great program. The Maywood Mutuals are benefiting, Maywood 1, Maywood 2, Maywood 3, the residents in those areas. Orchdale, I see Orchdale here, got a rebate of $85 for a Water Smart washer. Paramount, Whittier, Santa Fe Springs, Walnut Park, La Mirada. This is excellent, and these are just, examples of some of the wonderful benefits that all of our cities and purveyors have access to that I think we should all be very proud of. So I guess with that, I'll go ahead and move to approve this item. Thank you.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes.
Director Urigi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez? Yes. Director Apodaca, President Apodaca?
All right, item number 12, right?
Yes. I'm sorry.
So, congratulations, 18 years. Yeah, Sandy has just done a phenomenal job, and I really appreciate your presentations on this because you really have all of the information. You've been here for many years, and you have spearheaded all of these efforts to help us get programs to all of the cities and the purveyors that we service. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go through all the great things that you've done.
So this was a presentation that was provided at the Communications and Government Affairs Committee earlier this month. It was a PowerPoint, but I did prepare it as a board memo for our packet today. And so each grant and program that we have facilitated in the recent years is detailed in this memo. So I'll begin, and I organized it by the most recent programs that we've completed. So the Prop 84 grant, which is currently the grant that Central Basin is facilitating, is a grant that's is $1 million, close to $1.2 million. It's for audits and retrofits on public sites.
Is that a federal grant, Sandy, or a state grant?
State grant. It's, yes, Prop 50.
Is that water bond money?
It's DWR.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as the participants, we so far have had the City of Norwalk, City of Downey, Los Nietos School District, City of Bell, City of Artesia, which we just recently completed a couple weeks ago. We have completed 26 site audits and retrofits out of 57, and we've used over $400,000 worth of our budget. The next locations that we're working with is Paramount Unified School District and Linwood Unified School District.
Have you identified all 57 sites?
Yes and no. We have actually over 300 sites that were applied back in 2016, and so I am basically working down that list.
Okay.
But I would say yes, but they have not all been confirmed.
Okay. So just like really quickly, what does that mean? What does the audit and retrofit? What is that? What do you do?
So what we do is when we contact the public agency, we ask them if they would like to get an audit of their water usage. This is both indoor and outdoor. If they would like to participate, then that's what we do. We perform an audit, and based on those, the audit report is recommendations of what we can do to make changes on their facilities so that they can lower their water consumption. And this is a potable water only program. So if they're currently using any recycled water, they wouldn't qualify.
Okay, thank you. So you go in there, you check the pipes, if there are any leaks, then...
Well, it's mostly the toilets, the nozzles outdoors, if they currently don't have any weather-based irrigation controllers, if they have nozzles that are inefficient, toilets that are outdated, urinals that are outdated. We also change out aerators in their sinks.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so Southern California Water Smart Rebates.
So this is the program that I just provided an update on. So for fiscal year 2018-19, the total was $285,000 for both residential and commercial. In fiscal year 13-18, we had close to $9 million, and that's is all credit mostly to the TURF program in 2014-15 when that was first launched. As far as partnerships for supplemental funding, we've had the City of Southgate, San Gabriel Valley Water Company, Liberty Utilities, and Suburban Water Systems.
Now, the $285,000, where does that funding come from?
That's all Metropolitan.
So the Metropolitan Water District reimburses us?
No, this is part of their fiscal budget of what they have for the SoCal Water Smart program, what their fiscal budget is to run that program for rebates.
So the City of Southgate will get a check from the Metropolitan Water District?
No, what the City of Southgate will do is they will provide supplemental funding, and then any rebates that occur in their service area, we would bill them. So their customers would be getting a higher incentive based on whatever additional money they want to put on top of Metropolitan.
We would bill who?
The City of Southgate, for example.
Oh, okay. So the City of Southgate says we're going to allocate $50,000 a year this year for rebates.
Yes.
So
however much of that $50,000 that is used, that's what we would bill them for.
And so we would give the residents the rebate? Is that how that works?
Metropolitan would give the resident the Metropolitan rebate on top of the City of Southgate, for example. And then they would bill us every month. Metropolitan does in the water bill. And then based on that information that I receive every month, we would then bill the city, for example.
Interesting. Okay. Now, does that require a contract?
Yes.
Okay.
And those are, I have one today for Liberty. But yes, I would come every month. So when we have, every year, we have the addendums that are released by Metropolitan, and I come to the board to get those partnership agreements, is what they are, approved by the board.
Okay, excellent. All right, so the Metropolitan member agency allocation?
So this is also part of the addendum, but these are monies that are used solely for local conservation programs. So it shows here during the fiscal years how much money is allocated to Central Basin. In previous years, San Gabriel Valley Water Company, Liberty Utilities, and Golden State have been a partner with us. Director, as you mentioned, those are partnerships come to the board for approval. And what those programs are is, and I can use Liberty as an example, they have a direct install program or a toilet direct program. So they hire the vendor, and that vendor will either deliver a toilet to a resident or install that toilet for that resident. The cost of that toilet they pay for, but what they would do is that database of all those residents that receive that toilet or those toilets, they would send to Central Basin. We would then submit it to Metropolitan, and then the agency gets that rebate. So currently the rebate is $100. In previous years it's been up to almost $100. And so it helps the retail agencies to lower their program cost.
Okay. What are we doing to help our smaller mutuals in cities, which really, run water departments that are for public benefit? Some of our private water companies, their main, goal is to profit. And we know that they can afford these sorts of things. What are we doing to help those purveyors that actually need these programs?
So
and how can we encourage them to participate and benefit from this?
So this particular funding, you need to have the money up front in order to facilitate the program. And that's the only way that it could have been used up to just this recent year when the Disadvantaged Community Program was launched. The Disadvantaged Community does not have those same guidelines as far as how this money has been used in the past. This, if it's a non-DAC program, it can only be used for a rebate. So an agency can only use it to have a local project and get a rebate on whatever the device is. It could be a clothes washer, toilet, or a nozzle. But as I mentioned, for the DAC now, that's a little bit different. And we're working with the purveyors to try to develop and utilize some of this funding so that it doesn't go to waste.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Prop 50 and Department of Energy grants?
Okay. So Prop 50.
Sandy?
Yes.
Why do these other ones not have dates on them? Because some of these go back to 2008.
I didn't put the dates on them, Kevin. That's.
You have them on the first ones, but I just wondered.
Okay. On the first one. Oh, I put it on the SoCal Water Smart only because that's a fiscal year program. So that's the reason why I put the dates on just that second one, because that's the rebate program through Metropolitan, and it's a fiscal program.
Because these are all really brief.
Did you want me to continue?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Prop 50, this was a program that was $1.9 million. It consisted of a conservation awareness program. We did 5 demonstration gardens in the cities of Whittier, Southgate, Montebello, Cudahy, Cerritos. These were also audits and retrofits. We performed 59 of them. And there you can see the list of the participating agencies. We also had a partnership of funding, additional funding from Metropolitan, San Gabriel Valley Water Company, and Liberty Utilities.
Excellent. Signal Hill, Commerce, Paramount, Whittier. This is wonderful. Okay.
The next one is, and we have 4, they were all Prop 50 grants. We facilitated these about all around the same time. The first one was the High Efficiency Living Grant. It was $3.2 million, and we installed over 9,000 toilets in our service area. This was also a partnership with Metropolitan, who also added additional funding to that program. Excuse me. The next one is Helping Our People grant, and this was only for the residents of the city of Maywood. We replaced over 2,000 toilets. They had to be existing 3.5 gallon per flush toilets, and we replaced them with either 1.1 or 1.2. The next Prop 50 is the Urban City Makeover. This was a smaller grant, but still worthwhile. It was a little bit over $100,000, and we installed high-efficiency toilets, waterless urinals, weather-based irrigation controllers. We also created a California native gardens. We also gave away water brooms to local fire stations, and then you'll see the list of participating cities. And then the Prop 50 Multicultural. This was solely an outreach program with a budget of $100,000, and we had 15 participants. You see the list there from cities and water retail agencies. And then the City of Bell Gardens was the first California-friendly city. The program budget was $1 million, but the portion that they received from Metropolitan was about $125,000. There were other partners that were involved in that program, but they're the first and only California-friendly city, and it's great that they're in our service area. It was also called the Enhanced Conservation Program. This was a little bit of outreach as well as rebate opportunities for, turf replacement for their soccer fields. We also did 55 toilet installs at various parks. And then, as I mentioned, the 25,000 square feet of drought-tolerant plants and decomposed granite at John Anson Ford Park and Bell Garden Sports Center. And lastly, this is our zero water consumption urinal direct program, over $800,000, and we installed 1,800 urinals.
That's wonderful. Bell Gardens, Bellflower, Cerritos, Commerce, Downey, Huntington Park, Pico Rivera, Santa Fe Springs, Vernon, Signal Hill, La Mirada, Lakewood, Linwood. This is excellent. Good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'll go ahead and move to approve this.
I'll second it.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes.
Director Urike?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Escudi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Item 13. Yes, we're on item 13. We're on item 13.
Item 13, confirmation of the ad hoc member for the retail meter charge working group. And Director Escudi is the chairman of that. Director Escudi, you want to name those people?
Well, Mr. President, if I may, the board's previous action regarding creation of the ad hoc committee, you created a committee of 3. Later in the agenda, there's a reference to 4. So the first line of business would be for you to have a motion and vote on increasing the committee from 3 to 4, which was the previous board's action.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to change the composition of this ad hoc committee to 4, and to confirm directors John Escudi, Phil Hawkins, Director Camacho Rodriguez, and Director Frank Heldman to this committee.
I'll second that motion.
We need to do it in 2 minutes.
No, you can do it. To do it together is fine.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes.
Director Urike?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Escudi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
this would be a question for Mr. Hunt. I know there was a reference to also the members from the purveyor community, right?
That's not our resolution, that's in the resolution we're taking up in item number 14.
So at that time, that would be appropriate to add another name to that?
Yeah, if you wish to.
Yeah, thank you.
So item 14.
Yeah, with respect to this working group, now, will everyone, all of the directors and purveyors be permitted to, that are not already on the committee, be allowed to attend this committee meeting?
Attendance would be okay as long as there's not participation, a quorum of the board of directors.
Very much like a regular committee meeting.
Just
we
like
all
the
come
regular
to.
committees, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 14.
Yes, sir. We have one request to speak for David Alshire. Before we start here.
Good morning. Dave Elshire with Elshire & Winder and the City Attorney in Signal Hill. And first of all, I do want to make a comment. I know your next item, 14.2, includes the actual approval of the water charge and taking the actions to go forward with the meter rate. And so my comments, for the record, I'd like to make sure that the June 18th letter that we sent is entered in the record on that item officially, and I'd like the comments here to also be a part of the record on 14.2. On a happier note, over the process of the last couple months, we've been involved with the process of trying to go past the legal arguments on whether the meter charge is legal or not and into a cooperative working relationship in order to deal with long-term issues. And at your last meeting, you actually approved your budget with the $2 meter charge included, and we were opposed because we wanted to make sure there was a commitment to this process. And so you listened to us and directed to the committee that your representatives keep working with us and prepare a resolution, have that resolution on your agenda, and indeed that resolution is on your agenda. Over this process, we received comments from directors and staff. The committee, membership of the committee was one of the issues that came back. We also worked with our purveyors group in terms of their comments. The resolution that you have in the agenda packet is the latest draft, which synthesizes all of the different comments. So we very much hope that you can go forward with that resolution in the format that it's in. On the $2 charge, the clock is ticking on our bringing a formal legal charge to that, so it would be very important to get the resolution adopted and get this process going for us working together. If the resolution did not get adopted and you are just going forward with the charges, then we obviously would be having a different conversation. So I'm speaking before you've acted, so I can't be sure what you're going to do. I assume that we won't have a problem with this resolution. But the resolution itself, if you actually think that it's taken us a couple months to get to this point, and we're talking about a 6-month process with regards to these larger issues, these are issues you've been struggling with for several years. So trying to work this out in the next 6 months is a big challenge. And from the directors that we've been talking to, I think that you all are fully aware that it is a big challenge. The purveyors group, we actually last week had 25 representatives get together, have a very detailed discussion of all of this. Again, at the end of the day, with some minor modifications, we came back on this resolution. But we fully appreciate that this has been going on for quite a long time, and it's going to require a huge effort, a sustained effort over a pretty short period of time, 6 months being a relatively short time, to try and talk about the revenue issues, the budget cuts, and other issues. The resolution acknowledges at the end that it's your decision, that what you do with your budget and what programs you adopt is your decision. We appreciate your willingness to involve us. We're, as you've pointed out from the comments today even, we're your constituent group. And so we think this is a unique opportunity in the history of the Central Basin for both parties to be together at the table with a committee that can come back and make a recommendation. We do understand at the end of the day, it only works if the board as a whole is willing to implement the outcome of that conversation. So as much as I think, and I think the Purveyor Group feels that this has been a very interesting and productive exercise to get to the point of this resolution, we're just kind of at the base of what the mountain we really need time to solve the overall problem. So on our side, there are 39 purveyors, so nobody really speaks for everybody, but I think that's the general feeling of the group, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
I have a question. Since you're self-identifying as a part of the constituent group, how many members in your group live in the community?
Well, the group of 39 purveyors, so I hope you're not asking me how many members, board members, staff members of the 39 entities all live in the Central Basin. All the entities are situated in the Central Basin.
Right, but a constituent is someone who votes in the area for the members?
You mean if we took all of the residents that vote in the 39?
I wasn't talking about the residents. You're identifying your member group, the group that sat together to draft this resolution. And so if you're identifying as constituents, that gives me the impression that you're a voter. Is that correct?
No, I'm saying, so we have entities. The city of Signal Hill is one of the 39 entities. So all of our council members live in Signal Hill. But these 39 entities that purchase water and then distribute water to their members, all those entities are in the district. You don't have direct, the water purveyors are your customers, and I'm basically calling them your constituents, but it's the term of art.
So, I have another question. Is it okay if I ask my question? Several years ago, the purveyors with the legislature and actually with some members of this board worked on a bill that would change the governance of this agency. And this board now reflects that change.
Correct.
Now, members of your purveyor community actually voted in support of this meter charge 2 weeks ago. Do you speak on their behalf as well? Members of this board who are also members of the purveyor community, are you speaking on their behalf as well?
Well, at the last meeting, what we represented was there were several purveyor entities that basically were not in favor of the charge. We said that the group that I was representing, including Signal Hill, was okay with the charge subject to all these conditions, that it be sunsetted, that we have this working group, etc. I don't know, I haven't heard any ratepayer, including the city of Signal Hill, who said philosophically they think the meter charge is a good thing and they're in favor of it.
But your representative on this board voted in favor of it. So I just want to point that out.
Again, I think, yes, and we said that the $2 charge would work as a short-term, temporary charge to get you through your current fiscal problem. At the same time, we don't actually think it's a legal charge.
Mr. Alshar, can you please explain to me what sunset means?
Sunset means that after this period of time that we're talking about, there would not be a charge. We think the goal of the purveyor group and working with your group is to come up with come up with a charge, a method of raising revenue that is legal. We think there should be budget cuts, but we also think, for example, you have parcel tax and you raise it through a vote process, that would be legal. And if we're not opposed to your going forward with something like that, and that might be part of the bundle of remedies for your current fiscal problem. Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm a little confused because in one of these warehouses it says that there's a rate cap for 3 years.
Yes.
In one of the motions we just said we had an ad hoc committee to work for the next 6 months. If we've already established a time and a rate, what is our ad hoc committee doing?
The idea from the standpoint of the purveyor group, again, we're giving you a period to work something out. But that period has a limited time frame. In other words, we're not saying as long as it's only $2 charge, you can impose it forever. The idea of the sunset is that we realize time's short. We understand the bond issue that you talked about. We understand that some of these decisions are very long-term that you have to make. So we were willing to allow this limited charge for a defined period of time to exist until you come up with a plan and then make progress implementing the plan. The way we see the plan is you basically not necessarily make cuts and other things all at once. This parcel charge, in my experience, doing something like that could be a 2-year process. Of trying to figure out what it should be, how you would charge it to customers out there. By the time you do a public education campaign to try and sell it. So, in essence, we think you can do this in 2 years. We've given
that's fine. I can just watch your approval. If we have enough flexibility to be able to move this, then we need the direction of the changes that we're without going to lawsuit. So we're not doing some of this other stuff. And I'm sure we have that stuff. And for people example, one of the things that I think is a potential cost, not for the unfunded liability, but full state taxes. Unfunded liability, I think something like that would come down to every state agency and say, we want 25-50% of the pay this year. If we don't have the flexibility, we come over here with what we can. Up to that, what do we do? That's why I want to be sure that we have some flexibility in this so that we can negotiate or we can still work with it. Well, go to lawsuits all over again and be able to work with something. And more of the flexibility that we can still work with.
Mr. Chairman?
Your question, Director. What I would say is that, using your example, you're dealing with a lot of governmental entities. They're all dealing with the same problems. You deal with council members out in your world, and so and you know that you have an audience that is basically sympathetic with the problems you're trying to solve. So we're trying to set something that's clear where our starting point is, but you have a group of entities that deal with the same problems you do, and so it's all going to depend on that dialogue.
Okay, we're going to go back to item number 5. It says authority. The district remains ultimate authority to adopt its own budget without approval of the committee or the purveyor.
Correct.
So that would answer my question. Okay, I just want to clarify some of that.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have several legal questions around this, and I would like to break into closed session to ask those questions since we have already been put on notice that this is a matter of potential litigation. I would like to ask those questions in closed session.
The board would have to first vote on deciding whether to go into closed session regarding this issue.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion.
I'll second that.
Director Chuckwan?
Yep.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Uriki?
Yes, that's the motion.
To go into closed session to discuss.
To ask questions, legal questions I have.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
No.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, so before we go into closed session, I do have one more question for our attorney. And given the fact that we have already been put on notice by the purveyor community, how does that impact the purveyor's ability to go into closed session and have this discussion with us?
Under the terms of AB 1794, the purveyor directors are subject to the same issues of conflicts as any other director. This would not constitute a conflict for them because it does not involve their personal, material, financial interests.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, buddy. Mr. President, want to go into closed session now? And then come back out and proceed with the rest of the agenda?
Oh, we have to recess.
Recess and closed session.
But the disclosure of confidential information acquired in a closed session by any person present and offers various remedies to address willful breaches of confidentiality. These include injunctive relief, disciplinary action against an employee, and referral of a member of the legislative body to the grand jury. It is incumbent upon all those attending a lawful closed session to protect the confidentiality of those discussions. Only the legislative body acting as a body may agree to divulge confidential closed session information. As regards attorney-client privilege communications, the entire body is the holder of the privilege, and only a majority vote of the entire body can authorize the waiver of the privilege. We go into closed session here. met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection B3. All directors were present. There's no reportable action.
Mr. Pellman?
Yes.
There was a motion made in closed session and action taken.
Yes.
Can I remind you? Or would you like to make a record of
What would
that?
be reportable is that the board gave direction to staff to prepare various documents, period.
Okay. And can you also just, for the record, disclose the vote to the public?
The vote directing staff was approved by directors, it was moved by Director Vasquez, seconded by Director Chacon, approved by Director Helpman, Director Camacho Rodriguez, Director Chacon, the others voted no.
So it was a 5-3 vote, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, we're still on item 14.
Just curious, Chair of the committee, did you?
Mr. President, in closed session, we discussed the resolution before us in detail. I was going to go point by point in providing a background for why we are where we are today, and why we're considering this resolution. I was going to do that for the benefit of the purveyors sitting out here, the folks that are sitting here not familiar as the purveyors, and the board of directors. I'm not going to do that because we discussed this in detail. The purveyors already know about the terms of this resolution. They're intimately familiar with it. They know the intent, they know the purpose, they know our goal. The board members know that as well. With that, I move to adopt the resolution as is presented here.
Second that motion.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to defer this action for further discussion in line or in conjunction with the ad hoc committee that has been created to discuss the meter issue.
I'd like to second that motion.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
No.
Director Arrighi?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
No.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Call for the question of the original motion.
Director Chacon?
No.
Director Heldman?
Yes?
Director Arrighi?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
No?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
No.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion does not pass.
Tell me.
Okay, I just want to make a comment with respect to the closed session. I remain greatly concerned with the threat of litigation around this meter charge and the participation of our purveyors that serve on this appointed purveyors in discussions that have to do with potential litigation around the same issue. I believe it's a conflict of interest for them to participate, and I will be asking our attorney to produce a legal opinion around this issue. Thank you.
Is that a motion, Director Vasquez?
Actually, to save legal costs, I believe that it might be a better idea for us to to ask the Attorney General for an opinion around this. So what I would like to do is to work, I'll make a motion for our general counsel to ask the Attorney General to give an opinion on this. So I'll go ahead and make that a motion.
That's a motion.
I'll second that.
Director Chacoan?
Yes.
Director Halsman?
No?
Director Reedy?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Okay, Bob, could I make a comment? I abstained on this because there was a lot of questions that I think need to go back to the ad hoc committee to be answered. I only went to one ad hoc committee and I learned so much while I was there, and there's so many questions came out of our closed session that I think should be presented, whether we act on them or not, that should be brought to the light so that everybody understands and everybody gets on the same page. And that's one reason I abstained till we could get all this clarified. That's it.
Item 15. 14A.
Annual appointment of board.
14A. 2. 14.2.
Where are we? 14. Approval of water rate study.
So, good afternoon. You can see there's 3 recommended actions. They are approval of the water rate study, resolution establishing a retail meter charge, and the resolution relating to water rates and charges. These 3 items were actually on the agenda a week and a half ago when the board adopted the budget. Staff feels the motion wasn't clear, and in the abundance of caution, we're bringing these 3 items back as cleanup. So some of the board's discussion in the past about these items, this is really a culmination of this prior board discussion and staff presentations. So these 3 items are 100% consistent with the budget, and so this is just an action to clean up, like I said, the items that were intended to be passed with the budget during that time. So with that, I think you can see the recommended motion on your screen.
Now, there's been some discussion around these issues, obviously in closed session and again now. During our last board meeting, the board voted to approve a meter charge of $2. In fact, already went through the motions of approving this, so why is this on the agenda again?
I think, like I said, it was a little vague as to the motion. If you go back to the tape, it's just for abundance of caution to make sure that these 3 items specifically are addressed in the motion.
Yeah, I watched the video, and it was crystal clear to me, so I'm not sure why this is on this agenda again. So, I mean, I would like to kick this back to the committee. I know the committee's going to be having a discussion about this with the purveyor community to try to reach some common ground in terms of the tolling agreement and also the resolution that was brought forth by the city of Signal Hills. So I would like to make a motion to defer action on this item. And even though these actions have already been approved by this board, I don't understand why we're doing this again. And if there are any issues, then those issues can be addressed during the ad hoc committee meetings that has been created.
Director, I just want to clarify, this is strictly a ministerial thing to clean up our rates and stuff that could be interpreted as being unclear in the prior thing. I agree with you, it was passed last time, but this was an abundance of caution. It has nothing to do with the day-to-day action of the negotiation with the purveyors. That was on the prior item, which we didn't have a quorum on, so we're going to continue. But this is strictly a ministerial thing to clean up, so I urge the board to approve it. Let's get our budget solid, going through it, our rate solid, and our rate study behind us.
I'll second that motion.
Director Chuckwan?
Yes. Could you repeat the motion?
The motion is to defer action on this item to the ad hoc committee.
Thank you.
Director Chuckwan?
Yes.
Director Holman?
No?
Director Reedy?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
All right, number 16.
Move the recommended motion presented to us by staff.
Second.
Director Chuckwan?
No.
Director Holman?
Yes?
Director Reedy?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
No.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
No.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion does not pass.
Okay, sit down. Well, here's something hopefully we can all agree on. Annual appointment of board secretary and deputy secretary. There's a description of what the actions are, but the motion would be to appoint the Margarita Aguilar as the board secretary, reappoint her, and appoint Cecilia Pulido as the deputy board secretary.
Move the item.
Second.
Director Chuckwan?
What was the?
To approve, appoint them as secretary and vice secretary, Maggie and Cecilia.
Well, I didn't receive any literature. Yes.
Director Holman?
Yes?
Director Reedy?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Where's the big party?
Good afternoon, directors. The purpose of this agenda item is to request that effective January 1st, 2020, the district's medical plan be transitioned to Aqua JPIA. The district, as you know, transferred to the CalPERS medical plan in July 2018 as a cost-saving measure, and as a result, the district saved approximately $52,000. However, CalPERS has had significant increases in premiums in the last year in the plans that are most utilized by the district. First, in 2019, the calendar year that we're currently in, the district saw an increase of 19.8%, and CalPERS had previously announced that for 2020, their rates were going to go up 18%. Exhibit A in your memo shows the premium comparison. As you will see, the two most utilized plans are listed there for our active employees, and the Aqua JPIA premiums are more competitive rates than those currently from CalPERS. By transitioning to the JPIA, the district will save approximately $11,000 for the current fiscal year that we just started, and we have confirmed with JPIA staff that they will allow us to participate again. Once we terminate from PERS, we will not be able to apply for their medical coverage for 5 years. We anticipate that this will not be an issue because we look forward to working with the JPIA in the near future. And historically, JPIA has not had the volatility that we've seen with the PERS plan. To terminate the CalPERS plan, we are requesting that the board approve the recommended motions before you. The recommended motion before you includes two resolutions. One that is for employees, that is the non-represented members, that's item number 1. And number 2 is for our board members that participate in the coverage. And number 3 is to authorize the general manager to sign appropriate documents.
Dina, I got a quick question. Does this affect the directors and the employees?
So the change will The medical plans, our current participants are our staff, our retirees, and our elected board members.
Okay, how does staff feel about this?
We can ask them right now, but the staff, the copays will be lower by going back to the JPIA. The plans are very comparable. Both PERS and Aqua JPIA offer similar plans. Exhibit B shows the benefit features of the plan, and I can, if I could redirect you to that exhibit.
I mean, you just gotta tell me that, is it gonna benefit staff or hurt staff?
It will benefit staff in the sense that they have lower copays and lower deductibles by going back to the Aqua JPIA.
You guys okay with it? I mean, I'm all for staff, so. Maggie, Sylvia, all right, I'm for it.
Mr. President, point of order. Do we need to make this into two motions or a single motion?
Single motion would be fine.
Move the item.
Yeah, I do have, what I'd like to do is, I've realized that I have to read everything that I approve. So while I certainly support this move, especially if it's going to help save us money, it says here that we're also authorizing the general manager to sign the necessary documents. I would like to first review those documents before moving forward with this so that we can read the fine print. The last time we made the transition, we were informed that we were going to save money, the benefits were not going to change, and this was according to your report in a public meeting. And what we actually experienced was the contrary. So I believe that it's probably good for the directors to read what they're actually approving. So I would like to defer action on this item until next.
If I may, August 19th is the deadline. So for us to be able to get this to CalPERS by August 19th, this is why this item is presented now. There's a very short window of time that CalPERS allows for disenrollment.
Why don't we put a caveat to bring it back to the board before I sign anything? That way we can approve it now, but then bring it back for the director to review it before we sign anything.
The only thing is that once we terminate from CalPERS, there's no turning back. There's no revocation or we can't rescind an action. This has to be done before August 19th so that CalPERS will disenroll the district. Otherwise, we will need to participate in CalPERS plans to have medical coverage effective January 1st, 2020.
Mr. President, if I may, my experience has been, and I think Dana can clarify this if I'm incorrect, CalPERS has standard forms.
That's correct.
They insist on their participants signing for an organization. Is that not true?
That is correct.
So this is not a negotiable form that with respect. So that may or may not answer your question, Director Vasquez?
Yeah, actually, I'm not interested in negotiating. What I'm interested in doing is I'm interested in reading the contract that we would be entering into. And that's not attached to this.
Excuse me, well, this is the contract we're exiting, not the one we're entering into.
Correct.
So we would bring you back before we enter into the other contract. We'll agree to exit, but before we bring back the other one, which is what you want to review, we'll bring that to you for review and take it through committee as we did this.
My understanding is that you have a deadline of August the 19th, right?
With CalPERS to exit the program.
To exit?
Yes.
Okay.
And we can certainly bring back to the board the documents that Aqua JPIA will provide to us to enter into their program.
Okay. So in order for us to actually, in my opinion, I think we should know what we're exiting from and what we're interested in entering into. And that hasn't been presented to us. So let me just make it easy here. And I really feel very uncomfortable with doing this. When did you first realize that we were going to make this transition?
We've been talking about this at committee for a number of months now, at the administration and at finance committee.
So why is it that we're waiting for a number of months to come by for
The reason is that CalPERS opens the disenrollment period as of the middle of June. So per CalPERS, let me finish, Director, please. The CalPERS opened the disenrollment period in June, so the documents that you see before you were not provided to the district until the end of June. This is the reason that they're here at this precise time. So the resolutions before you were provided by CalPERS, and they are specific, like our general counsel has stated, they are specific and germane to CalPERS, and there's no changes to those. We're happy to provide you, Director, and to the board to bring back the JPIA documents, which is going to be, in essence, a letter. There's going to be no agreement. That's why the resolution was written as such, that the board authorizes the general manager to sign the necessary documents, because for the most part with Agua JPIA, they don't require a board approval. They do just require a letter from the general manager indicating that you allow the district to participate back into Agua JPIA. And Director, I wanted to clarify, you indicated that we didn't save any money per the staff's memo. We did save $52,000.
Actually, I didn't, that wasn't my statement. My statement was that the level of service changed. And in fact, we may have saved money, but when our employees went to the doctors, then they had a higher rate of the amount that they had to pay when they went to see the doctor.
Yes,
so
that was presented.
Can I finish?
Of course.
Okay. And so that's why in order to prevent that from happening again, I am interested in reading the contract that we're exiting from and reading the contract that we would be entering into. And while I understand that we only got the resolutions at the end of June, the discussions have been occurring for many months now. And so I bring that to your attention so that in the future, since those documents are documents that are available, online or, excuse me, you have access to them before the agencies send the resolutions, I will encourage you to get those to the board so that, again, we can be as informed as possible and so that we can make a decision in a timely manner. Thank you.
Director, did you wish to make a substitute motion to table this item?
Well, the challenge is that we will lose our opportunity to exit the plan. So what I say this to you for future, please get that information to us.
Will do.
In a timely manner, Ms. Hidalgo, and otherwise I will go ahead and move to approve.
You already have a motion by Director Urrutia. If you need a second.
I'll second it.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Holman?
Yes.
Director Urrutia?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osui? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Action item number 17, this is regarding the Special District Risk Management Authority Board of Directors election. As you know, directors, Central Basin Municipal Water District is part of the Workers' Compensation Pool of SDRMA, and SDRMA will be holding their Board of Directors election. There are 3 seats on the board in this election, and the winners will serve a 4-year term starting January 1st, 2020. This item was reviewed by the Administration and Finance Committee. The committee recommended that the board vote for incumbents Mr. Bob Swan from Groveland Community Services District and Ms. Sandy Seifert Raffleson from Herlong Public Utility District. The committee also recommended that the board vote for James Hamlin from Bernie Water District. In order to vote, the ballot must be submitted before August the 21st, and election results will be announced on August the 23rd. Unless you have any questions, directors, in the exhibit were a summary of each of the candidates' qualifications for your review, and the committee did make that recommended motion before you.
Move to approve the recommended motion.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Holman?
Yes.
Director Urrutia?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osui? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, directors.
Mr. President, I need to excuse myself. I have another meeting that I need to attend to. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Kelsey. Item 18.
How many members do we need to?
You have plenty. You have 6.
We're good.
You're good. You need 5. You have 6. Item 18. Speaker, Kelsey.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought he had to announce it. I'd like to present on the district website. As you know, the district website is a key element for the district's communication and outreach efforts, as well as a source of information including meeting agendas, board meeting videos, district programs, and news. 2 years ago, the district entered into a contract with Civic Live, which expired on June 30, 2019. Staff was unaware of this expiration date due to staff transitioning. However, the website is still live and functioning. When the district entered this contract, there was a down payment of $25,500 for software implementation, content migration, and live website. And an additional $4,400 in the following year for support and software maintenance. To date, the district has paid $29,900. If the district continues its contract with Civic Live, the annual fee would remain at $4,400, a total of $13,200 over the course of 3 years, which is very affordable compared to other vendors. Civic Live also offers valuable services such as 24/7 support system, a highly customizable content management system, an accessibility checker to ensure the website meets all legal requirements, accessibility, a broken link automatic solution, audit trails which allow system and administrators to track modification and edits of the website, a news and alerts content engine that allows announcements to be published on the homepage, and secure hosting that protects the website from malicious attacks. Staff and website visitors are very pleased with the district's website and find it to be very easily navigable. In addition, the cost to maintain the website is very affordable, which is why staff's recommendation is to authorize the general manager to extend the contract with Civic Live beginning July 1, 2019 through June 30, 2022 in the amount of $13,200, equivalent to $4,400 annually.
So moved.
Second.
Director Chaplin?
I would like to make a substitute motion to approve this. Actually, again, I would like to bring the contract back. It says to authorize the general manager to extend the contract with Seekly Vive. There's no contract here. So I think what we should probably do is bring this item back so that we can see a copy of the contract that the agency would enter into.
I'll second that motion.
Director Chaplin?
Yes.
Director Haldeman?
No.
Director Reedy? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Motion for the original recommendation?
Director Chaplin?
No.
Director Haldeman?
Yes.
Director Reedy? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui? Director Vasquez?
No.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
No.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion does not pass.
Okay, so, fine. Cindy, go. Item 19, Director.
Yeah, water efficiency program rebate.
Good afternoon, directors. This item is for a conservation partnership agreement with Liberty Utilities. This item is brought to you every year when we receive our addendums from Metropolitan. And these conservation partnerships serve for the retail agencies to provide supplemental funding to their customers, as well as to access funding through our MWD allocation for their local projects. The recommended motion is that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a water efficiency rebate program agreement with Liberty Utilities in the amount of $95,000 effective July 1st and ending June 30th, 2020. Any questions?
questions?
Sandy, is there an agreement attached here?
No, what is attached is the scope of work. So on Exhibit A, you'll see the rebates that are the base amounts for MWD, and then Metropolitan will add the supplemental funding. As I mentioned earlier in the prior rebate presentation, that any activity that occurs, we will then receive an invoice for that activity. Or I'm sorry, we will be billed on our water bill, and then we'll send an invoice to Liberty Utilities. On the second part of the scope where it mentions the allocation, they have a Toilet Direct program where they deliver toilets to residents. They would then access the $40 rebate on each of those toilets that are installed or delivered in their service area.
Okay, so again, I'm concerned about just willy-nilly giving, the general manager authority to draft some contract that doesn't come before this board. So I would like to defer action on this item until that contract is drafted and brought before the board, and I'll go ahead and make that motion.
And I'll second. Mr. President, before there's a vote on this item, the record should reflect that Director Heldman has not participated and has recused himself from any action on this matter.
Mr. Pellman, what's the reason for that?
It's my understanding that this is an item that would affect his employer.
His employer? Okay, and is that a conflict of interest?
Out of an abundance of caution, he has recused himself because of his major financial interest as a member of that agency.
So it would be a conflict if he would vote on this matter?
Yes, that's the basis of his recusal.
Thank you.
Director Chaconne?
Okay, Vasquez made a motion, I second it, so, yes.
What was the motion?
To defer action until the contract is brought back for review.
This is on 19.
Director Heldman? Director Ricky? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osculi? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 20, approval to pay Wasserman.
The Wasserman legal bill for this month totaled $39,826. Of that, district operational matters were $14,382. The recycled expansion of Montebello pipeline matters were $9,000, and the balance was pending litigation on the Belkey and the Huntington Park thing. I recommend approval of the bill.
So moved.
All right, I would like to make a motion to approve payment to Nossaman for providing legal services to the district for the month of June in the amount of $25,000 and nothing exceeding that. The remaining $14,382.50 will roll over to the July bill.
I'll second that motion.
I'm not an attorney, but I'm not sure you can legally do that with the contract we have now, but that's okay.
Director Chaconne?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
No.
Director Ricky? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osculi? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Move the original recommendation.
There needs to be a second.
There's a...
Second.
Can I make a comment
Yes, please.
or a point of clarification? So if we are in a contract just for $25,000,
We're not, ma'am.
okay, so the...
25,000 was a policy the board adopted, that anything over that would come to the board for approval.
It's a board policy.
But the contract is for a total amount, and it goes up and down based upon monthly variations and legal issues.
And some of the reasons that I believe they've gone over was because something to do with the Montebello project, correct?
There was 9,000 expenditures on Montebello and other recycled water development. There's 14,000 on general district, including the discussion with the purveyors.
Yeah,
And the balance was on the lawsuits.
Yeah, this board has given very specific direction that the budget for our legal fees, our legal services is $25,000. And we have passed a resolution that states that our legal bills were not going to exceed that. And if I recall correctly, the contract that we most recently extended reflects that. So for you to imply or even give us legal advice that what we're doing is improper is totally inaccurate and out of line. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to contain our budget. We have purveyors here that are not interested in helping us move this agency forward by providing a budget that is sound and reasonable, that allows us to get the services that we need to function as an agency. And because of that, we're very strapped financially, and we have an obligation to our budget to make sure that we stay within our budget. All of our departments who have been asked to take cuts, who have been asked to stay within their means, have done so, with the exception of our legal department. So my motion is to pay the bills, and my motion is to pay the $25,000 bill that we have committed to paying, and to defer the $14,000 until the next month. There's nothing wrong with that. We are today approving two bills from, I believe, April and May. So it's not, let's not say that that hasn't been done before, because it has. So maybe this will incentivize our general manager and our attorney to live within their means, which is $25,000 a month.
Mr. President, if I may, there's a distinction between the board's policy of having the general manager put on the agenda for approval an invoice over $25,000 and the terms of the contract, which does not have that limitation. So it is incorrect to say that there's a budget of $25,000. The contract is the contract. The board policy is Mr. Hunt brings back to the board each month an invoice that is in excess of $25,000. And as far as the services that are being provided, they're being provided in response to requests by the staff and requests by the board, and the litigation that has been filed against the district where we are defending the district's interest.
Well, I've been looking at some of the entries, Mr. Pellin, and some of the entries that I see on this legal bill are entries that, in my opinion, probably don't belong here, including, and I won't read them, but...
Okay, because that would be a violation. Those are...
and I understand that, sir. We have had this conversation previously. But things like driving to meetings, that's not something that this agency should have to pay for.
No, that is common practice, Director.
Well, we agreed early on we were going to go over this in closed session, Director. So, just the two, we'll go down and go through the bills, and any suggestions you have on how to do it more efficiently would be welcome.
This board has taken the action to be more efficient, and that's to create a budget. And obviously, we couldn't get the votes to pay your bills, sir. I wish we could. The motion was made to pay $25,000 this month and to roll over the remainder, which is $14,000 next month, which would basically leave about a $9,000 budget for legal fees for the month of August. So,
for the month of July.
I'm sorry, for the month of July.
Mm-hmm. Which is already through, but anyway.
It would be August.
You still have a motion by Director Hellman at this point to approve the Osmond bill.
I didn't hear a second.
You haven't heard a second.
No.
No.
Do we have a substitute motion?
I believe Director Vasquez made that
Director Vasquez had done the substitute motion and failed, so Director Hellman went back to the original motion and has not been seconded.
I can reintroduce my motion, which is to pay, let's see, where are my notes? The motion is for the board to approve payment to Nossaman LLP for providing legal services to the district for the month of June in the amount of $25,000. The remainder of the bill for that month will roll over to the July budget. The remaining will be rolled over to the July bill. So that was my motion.
I second that again.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Halton?
No?
Director Reedy? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
All right, so let's
Mr.
move on to
President, I got,
21.
just to make sure that I understand correctly, the bill that we're talking about is $14,000 for district operational matters and $9,000 for pipeline expansion on the recycle for Montebello, totaling $23,400. The other $16,000 is in direct relation to litigation matters on the Belkey case.
Belkey and Huntington Park.
Correct. So, just so my board members understand, this is for services rendered, and I believe the way I understand the $25,000 limit is just to bring the invoice back for discussion to make sure that we're all in line and we understand what we're paying for. I think that the general manager and general counsel have done that. So again, I'd like to make the motion to go ahead and move the recommended action to pay for the services rendered on legal. And going forward, if we need to do something different, let's do that. But at this point in time, I think this is something that we could not have avoided. So that's my motion would be to move forward with the recommended motion again, just like a second chance at it.
Second.
Director Chacon?
Nope.
Director Haltman?
Yes?
Director Reedy? Director Hawkins?
No.
Director Schooley? Director Vasquez?
No?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
No.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion does not pass.
All right, so let's go ahead and go forward.
Item 21. As the board will recall, we addressed the Montebello Hills mitigated negative declaration last month, and there was a 4-4 vote. Subsequent to that, one of the directors said that he would like to revisit this because he didn't believe we should deal with it at the same time of the budget. He wanted to make sure it was strictly for the mitigated negative declaration only and not for any authorization of any funds for the construction of the project or agreement with the contractor. And I assured him that's what we're bringing back right now. A simple reconsideration of the resolution to adopt the final initial study mitigating negative declaration. And that this does not involve any agreement with the contractor at this time or with the Toll Brothers for the thing. This is strictly to complete our environmental process, then we're free to go forward if the board decides to authorize that at a later time. But this way we've completed our environmental stuff. So if there's a motion to reconsider.
Is there anybody here to speak on the item?
There were 3 people. Is there anybody left?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, they're still here. We have 3. Okay. Mr. Talbot, first of all, then we'll have these other speakers. Mr. Talbot is the city manager from Montebello, and he was here and he said, "Dear Honorable Robert Apodaca, the entire board of the Central Basin, I apologize I had to leave your meeting early and could not stay. I want to encourage you to thoughtfully consider approving a resolution to adopt the final mitigated study negative declaration for the Montebello Hills Recycled Water Pipeline. As you're aware, the city of Montebello has approved a 1,200 home development referred to as Montebello Hills. The council unanimously voted to approve of the final AMAP for the vesting tract map and subdivision improvement at the July 10th City Council. While the use of non-use of reclaimed water will not change the timeline for the development of Montebello Hills, we certainly feel that the approval of reclaimed water use is the right thing to do for the environment, the project, the city, the region, and Central Basin. Respectfully ask you for a yes vote on the matter today. Sincerely, Paul Talbot, Interim City Manager, City of Montebello. And then other speakers, get my cards.
Mr. Hunt, have you given other members of the public an opportunity to leave their comments with you so that you can read them into the public record as well? Because I know that there was another gentleman here that left, and I believe he was
We have two
here.
written statements. In addition, we have speaking cards from Ms. Linda Strong, Mr. Jim Flournoy, and Ms. Yvonne Watson.
So my question was, did you also extend the opportunity to read the statements
I didn't
from other
extend
members
this
of
to Mr. Talbot either. He just chose to do that.
Okay.
Excuse me. Ms. Watson, do you want to speak now?
Good afternoon, board members. I want to really go through this quickly. I believe this item has been agendized incorrectly. It's calling for a reconsideration. That is a term that has a very precise meaning under Robert's Rules of Order. I'm looking at the California State Auditor's paper that was online, their report from 2015 to 102, recommendation 9 responses, and they recommended on January 25th, 2016, under Administrative Code Part 3, Chapter 9, Article 1, Section 1.5, which was revised to include the Brown Act and parliamentary procedure training biannually. This was for the board member of Central Basin. It says, furthermore, Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order workshop for the board of directors. The first time that happened was on January 29th, 2016. I also have a copy of a Central Basin document which says that this training was completed for board members on April 12th, 2019. So you are familiar with Robert's Rules of Order and with the Brown Act. Now, under Robert's Rules of Order, in order for this to be anything that is covered under reconsideration, there are believe 6 parts. Number 1, it must be made by one who voted with the prevailing side. So it has to be a board member who brought this to you. And under LA City, when LA City has a reconsideration, they ask that the board member identify themselves. It says any member can second it. It says that number 2, it must be, number 3, 4, a motion to reconsider cannot be amended, postponed indefinitely, or committed, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be the original amendment, the original motion. There can't be any differences to it. You're just re-voting on the same thing. I'm trying to hurry up on my time here. The original question has to be in the exact position that it occupied before it was voted upon. And in order to reconsider, a reconsider is a means of providing a way of correcting if somebody made a hasty decision. So it's not a way of amending a motion you've already voted on. It's just in case someone wanted to change their vote because they changed their mind. A really good way to look at this is offered by the Oregon School Boards Association. They have a much simpler explanation. Reconsider. A motion to reconsider must be made by a person who voted on the prevailing side. That means someone who was on the side that carried or won the motion. This prevents someone on the losing side from bringing up a motion over and over just to annoy. The motion to reconsider should be made at the meeting at which the motion was made and voted on, although some boards allow it at the next meeting. The motion to reconsider can be seconded by anyone and requires a majority to pass. So you need in order to do just a reconsideration, you have to have a majority vote. Once the motion to reconsider passes, the motion to be reconsidered is on the floor, worded exactly as it was when it was passed. The board can now make a motion to amend it, or they can discuss and re-vote as it is. So what is taking place here is you have 2 parts to reconsideration. The first one is you have to vote to even decide if you want to reconsider it. That reopens it for debate. Once you've done that, then you can decide whether you want to amend it or whatever you want to make changes to it, and then you can re-vote on it to begin with. But the first point is you have to have a majority to even bring the item up for reconsideration. I want to just make a few comments on the Brown Act. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, any person can get up here and speak on any topic they want to. They do not have to they don't have to give their name, they don't have to give their address, they don't have to say anything. I can just walk up here and start talking. And I can talk about any issue I want to, whether it's on your agenda or not. I could be talking up here, my favorite taco, and you would just have to sit there and listen to me. And if you're talking to people back, you can have very limited conversation with the speaker. But you can't have some, but it has to be limited. But you cannot be asking people saying, well, that's, your time is up, you have to get up because you don't like what they're saying. You just have to kind of go with the flow and let them finish talking. This happens all the time at Ely City Council meetings. You get people that they get up there and they have their favorite topic and oh great, here we go again. But that's what they do. They just let them ramble. Because if you try to imply that they're not saying what you want them to hear or that they're off topic or whatever, that puts a damper on public participation. And the whole point of having public participation is to let people speak to you. So I'd just like to bring that up. And just be careful that you're following the rules. Because that's the whole reason why you got in trouble to begin with. Thank you.
Linda Strong, please.
Linda Strong, Montebello resident. There's something very wrong with this agenda item and this whole process. To start with, let's take a look at what I guess is the staff report on item 21 under committee status. It says on June 24, 2019 board meeting, the board of directors requested additional time to consider this item. Item was agendized July 10, 2019 special board meeting for consideration. The item was reviewed by the board on July 10, 2019 and is being brought back for board consideration at the July 22, 2019 meeting. What's left out here? What isn't in this? The fact that this board has voted twice against this item. That is not even in the staff report. Anybody going on a website, looking at your agenda, reading the reports, would have no idea. There's already been 2 negative votes on this. The bottom line of this situation about this environmental study is this is basically poaching on the turf, the territory of the city of Montebello. The city of Montebello was the lead agency, is the lead agency for the Montebello oil field, also known as the Montebello Specific Plan, Montebello Hills Specific Plan. This would-be developer, Toll Brothers, does not want to have to comply with a supplemental environmental impact report. You could perhaps argue that Central Basin would have the right to do the environmental study on the pipeline up Montebello Boulevard, but not on the pump inside the oil field. And by the way, none of the reports here make clear that this would-be pump is in the Gnatcatcher Reserve, which the environmental impact report on the Montebello Hills Specific Plan says will not have any development inside it. That's all being basically put off. Oh well, Fish and Wildlife will figure that out. This matter should not be before this board. This matter should not be costing this board on legal fees. This board has enough problems already economically without taking on more. Your lawyer, the last time when, I guess it was a month ago now, when board member Heldman asked, was there any possibility of litigation? Your lawyer said basically, oh no. Well, this matter was tied up in the city of Montebello in litigation for 4 years. 4 years. It went all the way to the California Supreme Court. The reason it did not succeed the challenge to the Montebello Hills Specific Plan was technical deficiencies in the filing. It wasn't really the substance. Meanwhile, guess what? The traffic study was done in like 2007. Some of these environmental impact reports are 10 years old or more now. There's all sorts of issues. There's all sorts of problems. Going over the environmental study earlier today, and I sent an email, and I hope every member of the board received it. I noticed these people don't know a lot of stuff that's in the Montebello Hills Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report. They say there's no earthquake faults in the subject property. That property is littered with earthquake faults. Most of them are probably old. They're probably dead. There's one that has been described repeatedly as potentially active, and I think I've spoken on that before. It mentions a couple of fires. Well, guess what? There's been like 6 fires since 2012. 2 fires were right about where they want to put this pump station. Meanwhile, for some clever question mark reason, they're not talking about all the other stuff that would go with the pump. The environmental study doesn't cover the tanks that you would pump the water into to then let it be fed presumably by gravity. It doesn't describe the pipes that would need to go around to take the water different places. My position is the Central Basin Board of Directors does not need to deal with this now. This should be turned down, sent back to the City of Montebello, let them do the report, let it be on their back, not yours. Then, if at some point it appears recycled water is a real good idea, with all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, it could come back. But there's something real funny, and I feel like Central Basin is being used. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Flournoy?
Oh, there he is.
Jim Flournoy, I am a South St. Gabriel resident, right next to the oil field project. What I'd like to point out is if you look in your agenda package here, there is a letter from the California Department of Fish and Game that complains about who's going to be doing the monitoring of the mitigation plan. After the meeting on the 10th, the City of Montebello had a meeting that night, and they reapproved their version of the mitigation plan for the Montebello Hills that was mentioned by Mr. Talbot. The exact same problems with what Fish and Wildlife complained about with your mitigation plan, that it wasn't specific of who was going to be doing the monitoring, et cetera, goes in spades with the one from the City of Montebello. So you can be almost certain that they take the same comments that were made by Fish and Wildlife on this document and apply them to the Montebello Hills Specific Plan in spades, which they say, well, who's going to monitor this? Well, one place it says a contractor. One place it says Toll Brothers. Fish and Wildlife would like to have the oil company be responsible for all the mitigation with their name on the bottom line, and they don't really care who the agent or the contractors are. So Fish and Wildlife is not going to be able to look at this from your point of view or from the city's until the end of July, because they've got the person that is responsible for this is on vacation. So I would certainly suggest you hold off on doing this until Fish and Wildlife comes back with the bottom line approvals on what is possible and what's not possible. That's one point. The second point is that we've got an expensive pipeline going up Montebello Boulevard, which comes out of reserves, and I guarantee you there's no reason to expect you're ever going to get this money back. Because if this project was tied up 4 years once already, it's probably going to be tied up another 4 or 5 years already in litigation. So in the meantime, you've got this asset sitting there with no return on it. Now, we make a lot of money doing recycled water when they're grading the project and we're sprinkling the recycled water on the ground. But after that, what the city just approved was a map, subdivision map, that does not show a water tank, which I think is essential for the Central Basin to have as part of the recycle project. It does not show a loop system that services the common areas of the condominiums. Okay, now there's 1,200 homes that are not going to have recycled water available. You're going to have just water going up the medians of the streets and a little park. So after the grading's done, there's not a whole lot of water sales left say 10 years from now or 15 years from now, long-term, which we'd like to have the Central Basin have for a project. So I don't see where this thing, there's a lot of risk in this project for the Central Basin, and I would suggest that you let Toll Brothers or the oil company pay for the pipeline. If it's going to save them money, let them pay for it. Don't put your nickels in this thing, because it could be a long, long time. I can almost guarantee it's going to be a long, long time before you get any return on your investment. Thank you very much. Oh, and I don't mind bringing this up again. We want to make sure, staff or whoever brought it up, perfectly okay to bring this up again. But last time I thought, gosh, they dodged the bullet, And I would hope you do that. We can always bring this up a year from now, 2 years from now, run the pipeline up 4th Street, up Poplar, up Lincoln, and let the oil company pay for it. But there's no reason we have to approve this right now till we get Fish and Wildlife on board and agreement with Toll Brothers that they're going to install a tank and they're going to service all the homeowners, because the Montebello Hills specific plan specifically says there's going to be recycled water to the common areas of the condominiums. And I guarantee you, if they leave that out, some of us are going to go fight them on that, because we would like to have recycled water for the whole project and not have them say, oh, we're going to slide on that. We're not actually going to do that. The real key here is that temporary pump they want to put in. There's no guarantee they're ever going to put a real pump in. Thank you.
A couple of clarifications. All we're asking for here is to complete the environmental process. We're not negotiating or signing any contract with the city at this time, or with the developer, or with the contractor. It's strictly to complete the environmental process. That has to be done in a timely manner. Second thing, the actual recycled water demand, we went through it in great detail. It'll be over 400 acre feet during the grading, but after that it'll be 200 acre feet. We've run the financials of this project. Good points about not getting ahead of the contractor, not building this until we have security. That's why all we're asking for today is complete the environmental process. If we don't complete it now, we can't come back sometime in the future and say, oh, we want to actually redo the whole thing, which means we'll have wasted $70,000. But again, the first thing, this is a board's question. If Director Hawkins, do you want to reconsider or not? You were the one who asked the...
No, I'm going to sit back on this one.
Well, that's the whole reason we had to take it up today. If then nobody else wants to reconsider, I just want you folks to know that the developer said he's scheduled to go ahead, as the city manager said, with potable water for the system. I don't think that's in the best interest.
You need a vote on it. I'll move it to get a vote on it, if that's what you're looking for.
Well, it doesn't do it unless we get a passing vote, but I think we should reconsider this. If we don't want to do it again, that's fine. Let's not waste any more time on it. But it is a good project, both for the community and for us financially. We're not a land use planning agency. That's the city's problem, and let them handle it, the city or the county, depending on where the land is. But this is specifically a recycled water mitigated negative declaration and mitigation plan. So
I'll second the motion for consideration.
I'll make a substitute motion. These folks have been coming here and, telling us time after time, there's this issue, that issue. And, we've already voted on this situation several times. And it reminds me of that pump station we ended up giving to the city of Whittier. I mean, that thing just came back and back and back. Hold on.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, till we got it passed. So, this thing has kept coming and coming and coming. So, you know what? I'm going to have to side with these folks.
What's your motion?
My motion is that we just not bring it back up no more. I mean, it's done. If it hasn't passed now, you can't keep pushing it on us.
If you don't mind,
Sure.
Director Chacon, I can make the motion for the board to reject the adoption and approval of Resolution 07-19-983.
I'll second that motion.
What was the motion again?
To reject the approval of Resolution 07-19-983.
Director Chacon?
Yes.
Director Holman?
No.
Director Urigi? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscuri? Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Okay, just so the board knows, that is approximately $300,000 a year in revenue the first couple of years. But again, we'll live with what you got.
Yeah, and Mr. Hunt, what I would suggest is that we do better planning around this issue, because there are a number of other issues that were never ironed out or addressed on this particular project that I had asked. One of them is, obviously, we're paying we would be paying for the pipeline to deliver the water. However, we had no written contract from the purveyor or the developer that would commit to actually buying the water from Central Basin. So that, for me, was a big issue.
And that is actually coming back.
And also the other, and we've talked about this many times, and for whatever reason, those questions were never answered. And a number of other issues that I've already brought up, that at this point I think it's getting late. I would ask you to review the discussions that we've had in the past on video that are in the meeting. If I could get those questions answered, that would be great.
Let me just clarify one thing. All we're asking for here was approval of the environmental. We've already stated that we're in negotiations with the developer, that would come back to the board, and there would be no expenditure of funds until the board approved that. We also have negotiations with the contractor who's going to build it. Again, that would come back to the board. But now we have to stop that process. We have no environmental justification.
Right.
That project has to go ahead with potable water. That's fine for them.
Right, but the challenge here, Kevin, is that you can't piecemeal things. You have to bring the board the entire picture. And I know that it was important for the board to actually separate the approval of this environmental impact report, but we cannot afford to continue piecemealing projects. You know, this pipeline was going to be built so that a purveyor could sell recycled water. The purveyors that have served on this board have made it very clear that they're not interested in supporting the growth of this agency. Yet, while they vote to eliminate positions, to reduce programs and services, they're asking us, the Central Basin, to finance a pipeline that they're going to financially benefit from. So that, is not really making a lot of sense to me. And so I think there needs to be more cooperation by the entire board of directors as we look at projects, identify projects in the community, and bring back the whole package for consideration.
And Director, as you go back, we have brought the whole package for 2 years now. And then at the request of the directors, we segmented this, but that's fine. I mean, like I said, you've had your vote. This is what it is. We go forward.
We just want to clarify, the board did take a motion right now to reject the adoption of this resolution. Prior to that, this one was a substitute motion. Prior to that, you had a motion by Director Hawkins to reconsider, and Director Hellman made that second. So are the directors choosing to pull their motion? We just wanted it to be clear on the record. So what you had originally was Director Hawkins made a motion to reconsider. It was seconded by Director.
I'll withdraw my motion.
He's withdrawing his motion.
What's next? Director Camacho Rodriguez, this is your item.
Item 21.2.
Yeah. I have a question about this because our administrative code really speaks crystal clearly on this issue, and directors get a budget of $7,000 a year.
4,000, ma'am.
For conferences, for conference budget education purposes, that is water related. And so there's really no reason for this to be brought before the board, because as I review this, this is water related. And if if this is within the director's budget, then she has every right to attend. This says here that it promotes lifelong learners who want to learn how to protect their water resources, how to learn about the water law, water concerns in the U.S., the role that water plays in the history, and I think all of this is, all of these are courses that are very important for the growth and development of our board of directors. So, in my view, I don't understand why this is even coming before the board. If Director Camacho has the funds in her budget to do it, then she should be able to do it.
And we thought that actually, we looked at it, and it really says for attendance at conferences, and this is an educational matter. Our policy doesn't address educational.
Do you have a copy of the code? Would you give me a copy of it?
And we provided a little handout so that it could go into record what exactly the 4 courses are. This is not for a degree, so it's not credit, and so it's basically just information as presented, where I would choose to take this informational course online about water law, U.S. water concerns, Colorado water, and the American West. And then the final course would be where I would work on an issue related to our agency with support from individuals who are the professionals in water. And so I thought in full transparency that our community should know how we educate ourselves and why this is important for any director sitting on a board, that they actually be proficient in information and decisions and legal issues, state and federal information, so that as a person representing the 1.6 million people that Central Basin services, that they understand that we are taking responsibility for our actions and our education and to better serve our community.
Yeah, in fact, if I can just read into the record the category that it falls under, it's Board Training 1.5E, which says additional annual trainings. Directors shall participate in annual trainings, conferences, and briefings with respect to understanding water and public service trends and developments in the Southern California region, the state level, and federal level, including board governance and open meeting regulations. Board members shall report during regular board meetings on trainings, conferences, and briefings that were funded by the district. So, that said, she is entitled to that already according to the admin code. And any other director, who's interested in participating in those courses would be able to do so as well. Thank you.
Just an abundance of caution for us, we based the list of meetings that directors attend off of one of the exhibits that's in your admin code to be able to allow us not only one to be able to pay for it, but also if the director happens to seek reimbursement, this is what we use to guide us to be able to process that. And it would also provide, I believe, efficiency for our finance department as any additional backup for them to be able to process this. We want to, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, if it were to be pulled by the auditors, they're going to reference our administrative codes to see if this is an approved meeting.
Okay.
It's a kind of an abundance of caution to allow us to be able to do this so that there's no questions coming up.
Okay, so why don't I do this?
Can I just make a quick comment? So my ask is not to be paid for the attendance online. My ask is to have the funds available to me for conferences to pay for these 4 courses online. I wouldn't be traveling anywhere. I'm not asking to be paid for doing these classes. I'm asking to use the funds already allocated to be able to to get this information. I feel it's just my duty to be responsible to my community, and the more educated I am in how I represent them legally, financially, at the state and federal level policy, that's crucial for me in full transparency of what I do as a board member. So I'm not asking to be paid to to attend. I'm just asking to use my funds that is put forth to attend other conferences, like I'll be attending Aqua next Tuesday. And so that's about the human right to water, and so that's super important for all of us right now to be educated on what's going on in the water world and how we are going to use that information to benefit our agency. So I'm not asking for the payment to attend, I'm asking to use my funds to have access to this information.
And just for clarification, Director, it wouldn't be for paying you to attend, it would be able to use district funds to fund that event.
Got it.
Mr.
We need to vote on this, or?
There should be a vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to,
Director Holman.
Oh, okay.
He was making a motion.
okay.
So moved.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amended motion or substitute motion to approve this for any director who's interested in participating and adding this program to the list of approved conferences and meetings for the Board of Directors.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah. That's still within the $4,000 that each director has?
Excuse me?
Is this still within the is this out of the travel allowance, or is this a new authorization?
It's out of the travel allowance.
It's $370 per course.
Is there a second to the substitute
It's
motion?
seconded by Director Chacuan. Director Chacuan?
Yes.
Director Heldman?
Yes.
Director Urigi? Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osculi? Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
President Apalaca?
I abstain.
Motion passes.
Quick.
Legislative update. Hope things are going better in Sacramento than here.
Good afternoon, directors. Be providing this month's legislative update. As it relates to the calendar, the legislature is currently on recess. They are scheduled to return on August 12th, at which point they'll be in Sacramento for about a month or so, finishing up business for the first part of the two-year legislative session. As indicated, Assembly Bill 1220 was signed into law by the governor, which preserves the district's 2 seats on the Metropolitan Water District Board of Directors. And I think one thing that I want to preface, this really was a team effort. I know that Kevin served, both Kevins actually served a pivotal role in getting this passed. Tammy as well in her ambassadorship, not only for us at the Met, but also with regards to our retail agencies. So I think that it's really reflective of a team effort to get this bill passed. The other bill that I want to keep you apprised of related to the district is Assembly Bill 591 by Cristina Garcia, which defines representative as it relates to Assembly Bill 1794, which deals with the governance structure of the Central Basin Board of Directors. Really, what representative means as a consultant to an entity, a contractor of an entity, or if nominated by a mutual water company, a member of the governing board of the mutual water company. Also dictates that appointed directors would be seated at the same time as elected directors at noon on the first Friday, December, their appointment. And also dictates that a appointed director shall be employed by or representative of the entity that puts forth their nomination. And that is a bill that is passed out of the Assembly, and that was the last status. So that's the legislative update for July. And unless there are any questions, or, I'm always available.
Joseph, can you repeat the number of that bill?
591, Director.
Yeah. You mentioned that it passed the Assembly. What were the votes in the Assembly?
You know what? Can I please provide that to you, Director? I'll look that up and send you an email or send this information out to all the directors. I think it was fairly unanimous, but I don't want to give you an information that, isn't correct.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be great.
So are you saying 591 passed?
591 did pass.
In the assembly, then it's going to go to the Senate, right?
So no, it went back to the Assembly for concurrence.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But what I'll do is I'll look up those numbers and get those out to you.
Okay, and then can you please give me a copy of that exact bill?
A copy of that exact bill is included in your agendas, but I'll make sure that all directors get a copy of the bill.
Yeah.
Thank you, directors.
Yeah, and I do want to make a comment that I remain, greatly concerned about the ability or lack thereof of the purveyors that serve on this board to vote, on matters that come before them. It's very clear that there's a conflict of interest on a number of matters that come before this board. I have expressed that on numerous occasions. I remain concerned that we have members on this board that are not required to live in this district. They're not required to attend meetings. The elected board members were required to attend at least 10 meetings a month where we're representing Central Basin on various boards or at various community meetings. I believe that those board members that are appointed are not representing the interest of the voters of this district. They are representing the interest of corporations that are not providing a service for the public benefit. They're providing a service for profit. So all of those issues are very concerning to me. There is a trend throughout our nation to privatize public water agencies, and I believe that is a detriment to our society. We cannot privatize a public resource that individuals need to live and exist. We need water to live. Okay, water is life, and I won't go into that. I think we all understand that. So I will continue to express my concerns about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, directors.
General Counsel report.
Well, first of all, just
Sorry, there's
with
still an
respect-
item on the agenda, number
Still one.
3.
Still one item left.
But first, with respect to the comments that just made, the legislation regarding the appointment of purveyor directors does have a provision that an appointed director shall be subject to all applicable conflict of interest and ethics provisions and shall recuse themselves from participating in a decision that could have a direct material benefit on the financial interests of the director.
Exactly, right, and that seems to be the challenge, sir. In fact, now that we are having this conversation, I would ask Mr. Hellman, Director Hellman, if he has ownership rights to Liberty Utilities. Do you own shares to the company, sir?
With respect, okay, first of all, there's a separate subsection that has a threshold. The person is not to hold more than 0.5%. That's one half of 1% ownership in a company regulated by the PUC.
Mr. Hellman, do you have?
You know that I do not own half of Liberty Utilities.
Or half of a percent.
I don't think that you heard correctly, yeah. Do you have any ownership right in the company?
I have stock shares, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Newspaper, here we come.
General Manager.
We still have the real estate report, item 23. It'll be brief.
Good afternoon, directors. This will be a quick update. Wanted to inform you that the RFP for the real estate services was extended. We talked about it at the end of last month's board meeting.
We just lost a form.
Need to wait.
You don't have a form.
Oral report, there's no action. Yeah, just complete your oral report.
Just an information.
We'll just close the board meeting down for lack of a quorum.
The services for brokerage and real estate purchase, the sale and purchase of a building. I'm happy to say that in the original submittal date, we had one submittal. To date, we now have 5 submittals at the closing date of July 16th. Those companies are Cushman & Wakefield, GM Properties, General Real Estate is 26, DBA is Lancelot Commercial, Lee & Associates, and Nathan Mahoney. Staff will be bringing this back to the board for review and approval approval at the end of next month's board meeting and at the Finance and Admin, or I'm sorry, the Admin and Finance Committee this, in August.
Yeah. I'd like to see those committees go to the real estate committee before it comes to the board. To the ad hoc.
We have an ad hoc real estate committee. It's at the pleasure of the board. Normally, we don't take procurements to an ad hoc committee.
What you have here is still, it's been more than 6 months, so you want to be careful if you want to have an ad hoc versus your committee.
Well, I think we should review it as the ad hoc committee, and the staff can still review it, but I think we should be able to review it so that we know what we're talking about too.
Board's president's pleasure. It's an ad hoc committee. Normally, a procurement process, we would take it through the.
We're not making a decision. I didn't say we were making a decision.
Okay, you just want to review it.
I think we should be able to review it along with the staff so that we know what we're getting into or what we're not getting.
I don't see any. Do you see a problem?
Director Hawkins, maybe to address your concern? For the committee.
We'll set it up.
No, but for the committee item, we were going
He's
to.
talking about an ad hoc committee to review. We'll do that.
No, I know, but addressing his concern, at the committee, we were going to attach the submittals to the packet.
Would like to have the ad hoc committee review, which is a different committee. We will do that. It's not a problem. Okay.
Fair enough.
Is that correct, Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we'll have the ad hoc committee review it also. It's not a problem. Just want to make sure we can legally do it.
And I'd also like to first apologize that a written memo wasn't attached as part of this report, and that there will be a written memo going forward on a monthly basis as recommended at the committee level.
General Manager's report.
We have a closed session still agendized for the performance evaluation of general counsel with regard to a letter received from one of the directors. Do we want to do that today, or are we tired and put it off?
No, we're not tired.
We're not tired, then let's
2:30.
go to closed session. We'll be brief.
Okay. The Brown Act prohibits the disclosure of confidential information acquired in a closed session by any person present and offers various remedies to address willful breaches of confidentiality. These include injunctive relief, disciplinary action against an employee, and referral of a member of the legislative body to the grand jury. It is incumbent upon all those attending lawful closed sessions to protect the confidentiality of those discussions. Only the legislative body acting as a body may agree to divulge confidential closed session information. As regards attorney-client privilege communications, the entire body is the holder of the privilege, and only majority vote of the entire body can authorize the waiver of the privilege. The closed session is pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, subsection B1, performance evaluation, general counsel. Board met in closed session regarding performance evaluation of general counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1. Present were Director Heldman, Camacho Rodriguez, Apodaca, Director Vasquez, Director Chacon, and Director Hawkins. No reportable action was taken. And the only thing I have to report under General Counsel's report, Mr. President, is that the next hearing on the Belkey litigation regarding the longstanding matter is July 30th. Yes, I have nothing else further to report.
General Manager.
I would just like to hope that going forward, the board can put aside the divisions between elected and appointed and do what's in the best interest of the district as a whole. I think we did a lot of damage today, not a lot of progress. That's all.
Directors, anyone want to comment about anything?
I agree with Mr. Hunt, and I want to make a request to bring 3 items to the agenda for discussion and consideration. One of them is a discussion to about a discussion around recording committee meetings and ad hoc committee meetings. I think there's a great deal of confusion around what's being discussed and what's coming out of these committee meetings, so I'd like that to be agendized. The other one is I'd like to bring back the administrative code as it pertains to the hiring of the general manager and also the general counsel for discussion and consideration by this board.
Okay, I'd just like to report out about me attending Contract City in May, on the 27th. No, well, I'd just like to report out attending the Contract Cities Association out there in Indian Wells.
Director Hawkins, do we get marathon pay? This has been a real marathon here.
Thank you.
I have nothing to say. I'm talked out.